Hi guys, this is Brent from Fantasy Football Guide Live, doing my weekly broadcast. Got 5 games picked out for you this week, as well as my Pika pick, and I even have an anti-Pika pick this week, the one that you probably shouldn't take, that people are probably baited into taking this week. It'll be interesting once we get to that. First game today is going to be New England at the Jets. I kind of picked this game out because these guys are division rivals. They always put up really good, tough matches, but not necessarily good fantasy matches. I think that the game is going to probably be fairly low scoring. Despite what Stephen Ridley had done last week, he finally, did something for fantasy owners. Unfortunately, a lot of people probably sat him down because he hasn't been doing well, or maybe they've traded him or whatnot. This isn't. I don't know. You might be able to sell high on him. I don't think he's going to do well this week. The Jets have the 4th best rush defense in the league right now, and I'd be hard pressed to say that Ridley's going to put up some good numbers. Belichick is kind of I don't know. He kind of set in his ways, and He may not still be all on the Stephen Ridley bandwagon. He kind of just does it like game to game, and if Ridley is not consistently doing well, he's not going to keep on giving him all those carries. But if he starts doing well during the game, then he'll give him more and more carries that he probably wouldn't have had if he floundered at the beginning. But Amendola probably likely to be out. So again, we're going to go back to the PPR monster Edelman. Granted, Antonio Cromartie is going to be on one of the receivers. If Gronk comes back, he'll probably be on Gronkowski. And that'll be a tough matchup. You have to play Gronk. I'm not saying don't play Gronk, but don't expect him to have this amazing game coming back, because he might not. He might get a touchdown, but he's not going to have, the 25-point game that you would expect for him to have. But look for him to, if he does even come back. People even said he might be on a limited snap count. So don't get too confident in that pick. If you have, or in that play, if you have somebody else that has been consistent for you, play that guy, even if Gronk is supposed to come back. If you don't, then Gronk's going to be your guy. He's still going to be a top 15 tight end, probably top 10. But we'll have to play it by ear if he even comes back, because Belichick is not known for giving out that much information in past years. Also, you got Cameron Tompkins, which is your TD magnet. He is your boomer bust guy on that team. If you want somebody that's going to be consistent, you're going to start Julian Edelman this week because Amendola is going to be out. Edelman's got some good hands, even though he's dropped a couple passes. I've watched their last 2 games, and he's dropped some passes in the last couple of games, which is kind of not Edelman-like, but Brady's gonna have to rely on somebody to help them win that game, because I don't think the Jets are gonna win. Bilal Powell might not play. He left the last week's game. I'm not exactly sure how bad the injury is. Chris Ivory would take his place. I don't think that I would be I don't think I'd be very confident with starting him, but Sean Hill is the one guy on the Jets team that I would say will have a good game if any of them do. They have a rookie quarterback. He has 7 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's typical quarterback numbers. Basically, you're looking at a guy that is just trying to get going, and hopefully he'll do better next year or the year after. But this year is just kind of a bad situation for the Jets, having a rookie quarterback and all. That'll do it for that game. I'm going to move over to Chicago at Washington. I know some people, they saw the big, pretty numbers that Alshon Jeffrey put up, and then he ended up not doing so well in a favorable matchup against the Giants last week on that Thursday night game. I wouldn't sway away from him this week either. I think that he will have a decent game. Washington also has not had the best defense as of late. I don't know, this one I think could be another shootout. I said last week that I thought that the Giants and the Bears game would be a shootout. The thing that will stop the game from going that way is if Chicago's defense can get turnovers. I looked up some stats, and I guess Chicago has has given up the fourth most passing yards in the league, and I thought that I was very surprised by that. But they've also had one of the highest turnover ratios in the league, so they're very good at turning the ball over and stopping offenses from getting near that, getting into the end zone that way. But they're still giving up a bunch of yards, so so fantasy players are still going to prosper. So like Josh Reed has been a pretty good target for RG3 as of late. Pierre Garçon is a solid guy, and then I know people picked up Leonard Hankerson. I think that he's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat, but your flex plays Josh Reed or Leonard Hankerson. I mean, for all three of those guys to do well this week, I think that's tough. It's really tough to say three wide receivers or two wide receivers and a tight end are going to do awesome on the same team. There's just usually not enough passing yards to go around, and RG3 has been struggling. If RG3 can turn it on and actually make himself play well this week, then all three of those guys will be good starts. But of those three, obviously Pierre Garçon, you can't sit him. He's a primary receiver, but I would take Josh Reed over Leonard Hankerson in this matchup. And then it's also going to depend on for Chicago. It's also going to depend on how well they can get Matt Forte, how well Matt Forte will play, or how get him into the game, because I think that he's going to probably have a good underneath game. I kind of went back and looked, and Washington played Detroit, but Joique Bell was the person that played in that game because Bush was hurt, and he did well in his place. I looked at just a couple other running backs that they had faced, and a lot of them were receiving type running backs, can play that screen pass role. So I think that he's going to get some looks. And Brandon Marshall, obviously Washington doesn't have a solid number one corner to stop somebody like that. So that's one thing that makes me think that might be similar to last week, as far as Brandon Marshall gets all the targets and Alshon Jeffery gets nothing, because Brandon Marshall is a monster, and if you don't have a corner that can kind of hold back on that guy, then it makes it really tough for the number two wide receiver to do well, just because, as maybe they're not getting open, but because this, even though Marshall's double covered by two mediocre corners, he can just still pull the ball down. That's the only thing that was making me think that Alshon Jeffery won't have a good game, but I don't know. I think he's a solid wide receiver. I really liked him as a rookie, and he's just getting better and better with every game. He just didn't have a very prosperous game in the last, but I think that he'll do all right this game, especially if RG3 does well. So then both quarterbacks are firing back and forth on each other, which is always fun to watch and great for fantasy. That's always the best part, is unless you're playing against them, of course, but is watching just teams just lighting up the board. All right, game number 3. 1 second. So I'm going to go with Minnesota and the Giants. I'm going to look for AP to bounce back. He had a down week. I don't know if it was because of his tragic event that had happened. Not even going to get into that. It's not worth talking about on this show, as far as being concerned to fantasy and his personal life. I don't want to get into the personal life of AP, but I think that he'll get back on track. Above that, Josh Freeman is going to be making his debut. They named him the starting quarterback. That's awesome. I am so thrilled that they're going to be putting him in. I liked the Matt Castle play last week, but he just was awful. Just absolutely horrible against that Carolina defense. They just ate him up. But Josh Freeman, he's been in the league for, I think, 5 years now, and he was hurting in Tampa Bay. I don't know that he's necessarily coming to a better situation in Minnesota. Tampa Bay has a better defense. Minnesota has a much better running game, and they have solid wide receivers. Jerome Simpson has really pulled a 180 on us from last year and is doing really, really well this year. And you have Greg Jennings, who is absolutely solid. And I don't think that you can deny that Kyle Rudolph is a really, really good tight end. He just needs somebody to throw to him. And I went and looked back at some of Josh Freeman's seasons, and he had, other than with the exception of last year, because that's when they got Vincent Jackson, he had thrown to tight ends more than anybody else on the team, and tight ends had more receptions than any other one player on the team. Granted, they only had really, like, Mike Williams was their primary wide receiver, and then they had, like, Kellen Winslow Jr. for their tight end for, like, 2 or 3 seasons, and then I can't remember who else they got after that. But, so Josh Freeman likes to throw to tight ends. If people dropped Kyle Rudolph in any sort of league for whatever reason, that they just got fed up and they're like, maybe they tried to trade him, didn't work out, and they dropped him, pick him up. I think that he's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to get into the end zone. If a wide receiver does well on our team, I would have to say Greg Jennings, even though Jerome Simpson's been the better wide receiver thus far with the other two quarterbacks. But I don't know. Greg Jennings is just that old veteran. Not that Jerome Simpson isn't a veteran. Greg Jennings has been around a lot longer. I think he has better hands. And maybe I'm kind of overshooting this and overthinking it and saying that Greg Jennings is going to do better because of that. Because of I've watched him play for years and years and years. With him being Green Bay. And I was never really all that impressed with Jerome Simpson. This maybe could just be Jerome Simpson's year, but I think that Greg Jennings is a safer pick if you're going to go with either wide receiver. And those guys might be out there. I'd be willing to bet that at least one of them were drafted, but they might not be on people's teams at this point in the season because they've done so poorly. But I think you have to start getting back on. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The Giants have they've been giving up a lot of yards, and we have the running back to keep defenses, keep them forward in the box, and they're probably going to put 8 in the box, so the wide receivers are going to be open. It's just a matter of if Freeman can get the ball to them, which he's got the arm to do it. And then on the flip side, Minnesota's been giving up everything. Like, you could put somebody's grandma out on the field and they probably would score on the Vikings because they've just been giving up so many points, so many yards, so many first downs. We cannot stop the Vikings cannot stop a third and whatever, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 5. They can't stop it. If there's going to be a game where Eli Manning goes positive in the touchdown to interception mark, or like he's just been throwing interceptions left and right, I think he'll throw an interception or 2 in this game, but I think he's going to have 4 touchdowns. I had said in another video that the Vikings are good at stopping number 1 wide receivers, and that would be Victor Cruz, but he's a speedy guy. I don't know if I would. I think he's a little bit different than he's sort of the same as Steve Smith, and they did well playing on him. I had, but so I basically what I'm trying to say is I think Hakeem Nicks is going to have a big game. I'm not trying to say that I don't think that Victor Cruz is going to have a good game, but I think Hakeem Nicks is going to bring back that plus 100-yard game and a touchdown. Maybe even Ruben Randall could get in there, but that'd be like a lower end flex play. I wouldn't be too willing to jump onto that bandwagon, but if you're going to do Ruben Randall, if you're going to put him in your lineup, it would be this week. I didn't really look at the Giants' schedule later on, but he would have a favorable matchup if you need an immediate flex play. Okay, you got that. So we're going to go to the Cleveland at Green Bay game, and the reason why I wanted to highlight on this. You have Josh Gordon, and he basically is the one guy that I really, really trust to be consistent every single week with Cleveland. And then you have Jordan Cameron, who I think is more of a TD guy than going to be a PPR guy this week. But the favorable matchup for Cleveland, but not favorable matchup for as far as quarterback to wide receiver tight end combination. I don't like Brandon Weeden at all. That's the only reason why I wouldn't put them higher up on my own personal rankings if I was to do that. But more the reason why I want to cover this game is because Green Bay has 2 wide receivers that were injured last week, Randall Cobb and James Jones. And with that being said, Cobb is going to be out for, they said, a month or two. Ouch. Jones, I'm not sure if he's going to play this week. I don't think he'll play this week. I didn't really look at his status, but even if he did, it'd be on a very limited basis. And Jordy Nelson is going to be blanketed by Joe Hayden. So that brings me to Jermichael Finley, somebody who has done mediocre, pretty subpar as far as like where people probably drafted him. He's going to have a great game. They had talked about splitting him out as a wide receiver, which you've seen a couple of teams do, or not a couple, but a lot of teams do with some of their premier tight ends. You know, like Jimmy Graham, the Vikings have done it with Kyle Rudolph, Gronkowski, and Gronkowski, Hernandez when he used to play before his incident. Like those types of guys. I think Cameron has done it. The better guys, and Green Bay's going to want to do that. It's going to be a good matchup. I don't think Joe Hayden's going to be on Jermichael Finley. I think he's going to be on Jordy Nelson all game long, and Jordy Nelson's going to have a subpar game. If you have a good sub for Nelson, take it. I just don't. I really don't think that he's going to do well. It is in Green Bay, so that is a positive thing. But aside from Finley, I think that Lacy is going to be your other guy that's going to do well on the team. He has not scored a touchdown in the last couple of games, but he's been putting up some monster yards. They just keep on pounding the ball, go. And I really like what I'm seeing from him. After coming back from his concussion, he's just been phenomenal as far as maintaining a good yard per carry or carry average. He is a guy, once he starts to sorry, my screen just went black. There we go. Once he starts to score touchdowns, you could use him as a sell high type of thing, but I think that he's going to maintain and do well as throughout the season. I think that he is a solid flex play. Potentially a really potentially a higher end number running back 2. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he's going to be a running back 1. He would have to have a bigger breakout. I haven't really seen him have a big run yet. He had like a 34-yard carry the other game, I think it was. But that's like his biggest run really that he's had all season. But he is definitely coming along nicely as a rookie, and he's not getting carries leached from him, which is usually the biggest issue with running backs in the league. Timeshares and stuff when you get to your running back 2 and your flex plays. And then for my final game, St. Louis and Carolina. So it looks like Cam's ready to rock, dude. He came back and finally, broke out of his little shell and threw up a 300+ game and had 4 touchdowns and looked like the Cam Newton of old, Superman as he likes to do. I love that bit that he does. But St. Louis's defense isn't really all that great. And I think that Carolina is really going to take hold of that game. It's in Carolina. I'm not going to pull away from Steve Smith, but segueing into my Pika pick for this week, I think Brandon LaFell is going to do well. I mentioned him last week as a good flex play, but I think that he's going to continue to do well. Don't drop him. Pick him up. Hold on to him. I think that if Cam Newton keeps on doing, this is what I was waiting for. This is what I would want to see from Cam Newton. Being, you probably used a second, third, fourth round pick on Cam Newton. I don't know where people take him in some drafts. In mine, I think he went in the 3rd round. But this is why people take him that high, because of his potential to run into the end zone as well as pass. He's got a great arm, and Brian LaFell is going to benefit from that. And obviously Steve Smith is going to as well. I'm not going to ditch down on that. I think Steve Smith is a better play than Brian LaFell, but people don't necessarily have Brian LaFell on their team, or he's sitting on waivers or whatever. He's somebody that you can go and trade for potentially and try and finagle a trade at the lower end. And have a solid flex play right there. And going to my anti-Pika pick, Oh, guys, you know what? I completely forgot. I'm sorry. No, this is why. Okay. San Diego is playing Jacksonville this week. And immediately I go and look, and it's like San Diego, X number thousands of ads this week. I'm like, no, guys, no, don't do that. San Diego's defense is not that great. They give up so many yards, and Jacksonville just proved they put up some decent points and decent yardage on Denver. Denver, I think, only got like 6 fantasy points for the week, and people were all hopped up, to play against Jacksonville. Just because Jacksonville's a bad team doesn't mean that you go and pick up their defense against them. If they are a good defense, yes, you go and pick up the defense. If you have Seattle, obviously you play that. If it's San Francisco, yeah, sure. If it's Chicago, they turn over the ball all the time, Jacksonville's been like, oh, it's Halloween early. Here's an interception for you. Here's a fumble for you. Here, take this. I mean, like just throwing candy balls, for them left and right. But I can't remember the exact stat, but see if I can find it really quick. The San Diego defense hasn't had that many turnovers that are for themselves. They haven't been getting many turnovers, and I don't know why people they just see a team that's doing poorly and then they go out and do that. Don't make that mistake. Let's see. Yeah, they have given up. San Diego has given up 10 passing touchdowns, and they have 2 interceptions on the season. Two. Like. Pittsburgh has 2, and they just got their first couple interceptions or first turnovers last week, and they have 2 interceptions. It's like that's how poor they're doing. Like don't take them. If you want to pick up Carolina. They have the third rushing and passing yards. The third least amount passing and rushing yards allowed on them. And they're absolutely solid start right there. They haven't had many fantasy points as a defense, so that's why I'm picking them. They're kind of like my pick defense of the week, I guess. I think that they're probably going to be available in most leagues. They're not available in my league. I think they were actually drafted, and the person just holds on to their players and doesn't do anything. They don't want to trade. They don't want to do anything. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But most people in most leagues he's probably going to be available, and I would highly recommend going and picking them up. I mean, they've allowed only 66 points to be scored on them for the season. That's the second lowest amount. 62 was the lowest. I can't remember who that was. I don't think it's Seattle, but that was absolutely absurd. I did not know that. Granted, the Vikings only put up 10 points on them, so that helped out immensely. But I think that they'll be available in a lot of leagues, and I think that they'll do really well this week, especially at home. And they have some good people to put pressure on the quarterback, and they just haven't exercised that because their offense has been doing mediocre. They're 1-4, but if you're 1-4 and you've allowed the second least amount of points in the league, I mean, that's saying something. Like, if teams are going to lose, usually they'll lose by a large amount, but they shut out the Giants. That's right, I forgot about that. But I don't know. I would highly recommend going picking them up. And that's all I'm going to have for this week, guys. I think that'll do it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, I'm going to post it on YouTube. I have been in Facebook and such. Subscribe. That'd be awesome. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to, that'd be great. Like it. I appreciate any feedback. I always want to get better. I like doing this. I do this for fun. I'm not like making money off of this or anything like that, but I just enjoy fantasy football, and I enjoy sharing information. And if you go to my workplace and ask them who here, who can I talk about sports, immediately they'll go to me. Everybody knows that I'll talk about fantasy football and football all day, every day. Doesn't matter, anytime. Like, I could just have woken up and they'll be like, "Hey Brent, how's this team doing? What do you think about this?" I'll be like, immediately get right into it. I love this stuff. So if you like the information I'm giving you, I appreciate any feedback, like I said, and that's all I got for this week, guys. I kept the video fairly short. I've been trying to keep it under 30 minutes. I know that these can get kind of long, but so without keep making it go longer, have a nice day.